Hi, everybody. My name is Angie Vishanen, and I'm the founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a mentoring program that connects pre-law students to attorneys for mentoring. And we started doing these Zoom meetups every Tuesdays and Thursdays to allow people to connect with other pre-law students and learn from current law students and lawyers. So thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have a special guest with us. His name is Kenny Vatchery, and he's a 1L at North Carolina Central University, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And and he just finished his first year. He's actually in the middle of finals right now, so I really appreciate him being here. So he, had a rough road trying to get into law school, but he finished his first year successfully. So I really was inspired by his story, and I really wanted him to talk to you guys today about, how to develop some resilience to adversity and persevere through some of your challenges. So thank you so much for joining us, Kenny, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, so pretty much before I got into law school, I opened up a restaurant. I was actually teaching some tennis too, and I just wasn't sure which route I wanted to go. And I was a criminal justice major when I was in undergrad, so I always kind of in the back of my mind was like law would be a really interesting field to go into. I have pretty good writing, pretty good reading skills, so that would be something interesting to go into. But with my 2.4 GPA, as you guys know, a lot of people are like, oh, like getting into grad school, getting into law school, or any type of further education would be pretty hard, almost impossible. So I actually had applied to Central 2 years before this, and I didn't get in. Like they just denied me. And so for a while, I was just kind of doing other things, and I kind of put law school in the back burner. I almost kind of gave up on it. But it was actually having a conversation with my friends. We went to undergrad together. And he asked me just one random day, he was like, are you still thinking about going to law school? And I was like, to be honest, probably not. Like, I don't even know like how much the LSAT costs nowadays. Like, like any of that stuff. And he was like, well, look, if you really still want to go, why don't you just take 5 minutes out of your day every day and just, look stuff up on Google. Like you don't even need to apply. You don't really need to do anything too much. Just take a step towards what you want to do. So, took his advice, looked on Google, was like, what's the price of the LSAT? Well, what are the next day I looked at, some dates. And, I'm a procrastinator. So I think it was about 2 months before I actually signed up for the LSAT. And at that time, I was working third shift at a hotel. And if anybody's worked third shift, they know that you might have 2 or 3 hours of real work and then 5 hours of just free time. So for a while, I used that 5 hours to just watch TV, watch Netflix, watch movies, watch like 2 or 3 films like a night. But then I started thinking, hey, like, I might need to do something productive. I have a lot of free time here, and like why not try to do something with it? And that's how I just started studying every single night, taking practice exams, watching YouTube videos about like how to strategize, how to attack the questions. And eventually I took the LSAT. I got 8 points higher than I did on my last LSAT. So I reapplied to Central. And but before I reapplied, I did email them. I emailed the dean of admissions, and I was just very transparent with them. Just was like, hey, look, this is my GPA. It's not good. My LSAT is higher, but I've been out of school for a while. So like, what are the chances of me getting in? Like, I really don't want to pay this, admission, fee and everything like that just to not get in. So what are the chances? And he actually called me. He asked me for my number, called me and had a conversation with me and said, look, I'll keep you in mind. Like, I really appreciate that email, and just do really well on your personal statement. Just like make sure your personal statement's good, and I'll keep an eye out on your application. So I feel like that was like really the first step, because when people are flooded with applications, they don't really put a face, they don't really put anything to the application. They do look at GPA, do look at LSATs, but when you email them and make it more personalized, they'll keep you in mind, and they'll be like, okay, I talked to this person, like he might not have the best GPA, he might not have the best LSAT, but like I connected with him in a personal level. So that was like the first step to everything. With my personal statement, I think the best advice, especially if you didn't do as well in on your LSAT, or you didn't do as well in undergrad, I mean, be transparent about that. Let them know your mistakes, and it's a great opportunity to kind of tell them, hey, look, I made all these mistakes, but I learned from it, and people really appreciate that. People, I feel like that makes you wise. Like if your path was not smooth and you had all these obstacles and you did wrong, like in the past, like people can see that, hey, you wisened up, like that made you a different, stronger person. So I would say don't shy away from the mistakes you made in the past. Like definitely be transparent about it. But yeah, so basically that happened. I got rejected actually, and they invited me to this PBAP program though, which is a performance-based admissions program. It was a 2-week program. They had 50 students. They basically were just like, look, about half of you guys will make it. You're not competing against each other. Like if one person makes it and the other person didn't, you're not replacing them, but you're competing against yourself. You're almost showing us if you can handle the law school lifestyle. And they said it didn't have to do with the grades. So, like if you did really well in your exams, like during the PBAP program, that didn't matter as much. They looked at everything. They looked at how you dressed, mainly your improvement. We basically had 3 exams, 3 multiple choice/essay exams, and 2 legal writing exams. And they just wanted to see improvement. They didn't really care like if you knocked it out of the park right away. They just kind of want to see, hey, when you get that first grade and you didn't do as well, do you work on your mistakes and do you improve on what you're doing, or do you just kind of like just give up, and back down? And it's really funny because my very first legal writing exam, I got like a 46, and and I was like, oh my god, like I'm definitely. I thought I could be go to law school, but I guess not, But with the help of some of the teachers, they also had some students actually help us with tutoring and stuff like that. I really just figured it out, and it really clicked for me. And the second legal writing exam, I got an 86, so it was a 20 something point jump. But looking around at my peers, it was like the same thing. There were people who failed that first exam, cried about it, because we actually stayed in dorms during those 2 weeks. So we would hear like other people crying in the other rooms, and we were like, oh my god, like it's rough, it's rough. But there were definitely 2 types of people there. There's people who cried but then got back up. They let it out, because definitely when you see that grade, it's emotional. Like you don't like seeing grades like that, but they got back up, went back to class, and they just improved. But then there were some people who just gave up. They saw that grade and they were just like, I'm not cut out for this. And even though they were going to class, you could tell they weren't as engaged, and they were just really let down. And some of these people were, used to 4.0 GPAs, all throughout high school, all throughout college. So that was really rough for them. But yeah, so at the end of that program, it was about 2 or 3 weeks before they even contacted us. And some people got emails. So some people found out pretty early, and some people got letters in the mail. So when some of those emails started going out, we were all in a group meet together, in a group chat together. And people would be like, I got into you. And I was like, dude, I haven't received anything. So I was like,
God, how devastating.
yeah. And that was like in the middle of the summer. So that was like in June. And I was like, I don't even know like how to plan my life out right now. It's like, do I accept? Like, I think I got accepted to a new job. And I was like, do I start this job or do I wait? Like let me figure out my life, but you're not telling me, so I'm not sure what to do. But eventually, I did get that acceptance letter. Got in, and I got the option of starting. We have a summer start program where it's summer school, but it's really like you don't get full credit for the classes. It's mainly just to get you in, get you a head start, and have you like do law school work before the real semester starts. And pretty much I had to decide, am I going to work during the summer and make some money, or do I just go ahead and take the summer start? but I'm gonna be losing out on a lot of cash flow just from missing out from working over the summer. But I decided to do that long-term investment and go to summer start, and that helped me a lot too, because in the same way that PBAP helped me, the first couple exams that we did at summer start, which didn't count, weren't that great. But once the real semester started, I felt like had already written 6 or 7 essays for class. I've already gone through some of the legal writing stuff, already learned my mistakes. So I pretty much hit the ground running. And
I love every part of this story, Kenny, because it's like, I think there were so many forks in the road where you could have just said like, no, screw this, I'll give up. And yet you kept going. And, I mean, so many things that you did, I think are just amazing because, writing to the dean and just explaining your story, I thought was extremely brave. I think most people are just too afraid to do that. And, of course, it made him realize like, oh, okay, there's a special person they need to look out for. They're working really hard at this. And, I think I try to tell people in their personal statements to do that if they're not brave enough to actually reach out to admissions, to really write, compellingly, truthfully, hey, I might not have had the best past, but I'm prepared to do this. And these are the things that I've been doing to try to make sure that I can, survive this rigorous course of study. And I just really love that, you went and did PBAP, and even after you had applied, you didn't get in, went and did PBAP, and that you continued to learn from all of the things all the opportunities that they were giving you to learn how law school works. Because I think, yeah, you're right. A lot of people will probably, go through that program, realize that they're having a tough time, and then decide not to go forward. But I think it's important to show like, hey, not everyone's road will be smooth. Not everyone's path will be easy. But you know what? At the end of the day, like if you make it through law school, you're going to be an attorney. So I think it's really important to show people, that vulnerability that, not everyone is going to have it easy. So I love that you're willing to share this story. But yeah, so tell us a little bit more about, what it was like after you got through this summer program and you started your 1L year.
So 1L year, I would say it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of hard work. A lot of sacrifices need to be made because I'm a guy who loves hanging out with my friends. I used to go out every weekend, and actually, like, I probably went out some weekdays too. But like, you still have to enjoy life because if you just make law school everything, and it does it kind of makes you not happy, and then you're not gonna do well. You got to be happy doing it too. So I'd say still spend some time with your family if they're around. Like, still talk to your friends. But you will have to make sacrifices. There's gonna be certain things. I remember there was a Halloween party I want to go to. I love Halloween. That's my favorite holiday. But it was like the weekend before one of our assessments. So I was like, I just can't do it. So and also it's a lot of figuring out what works for you, because with law school there's a lot of different things you can do to prepare for your exams. You can do the readings. You can do case briefs. You can do practice multiple choice questions, practice essays. And it really is just finding what works for you. And I think my best advice is other people might try to tell you what works for them, and definitely take the some of the criticism, take their advice, but still stay true to what works for you, because the only person who knows you best is yourself. So I've had some of my friends I know, they had great intentions, but they were like, Kenny, you need to brief all your cases. You need to read all the cases, like every single line, because that's how you're going to understand the law. And for me, that didn't help me as much as the practice multiples, because even if I read the cases and I pulled out the rules, once it came to taking the actual exam and navigating through the questions, I was having a hard time doing that. So I was like, look, I just need to put some time into the practice multiples, the practice essays too. And that's just what really worked for me.
And so when you were doing those, was that from like practice exams that your professor released, or did you use a study aid, or how did you find those?
Okay, so like our professors, they are very I guess greedy with their practice exams. They don't want to release a lot of them. So they weren't really giving us a lot of that material, but our school has a lot of supplements, E&Es, just and we have like academic success library with a lot
Mhm.
of different supplements. So I was
E&Es,
taking.
for everybody who doesn't know, are examples and explanations. So it's a series book of study guides that basically goes through what a study, an exam might look like for this particular topic, and it gives you explanations as to what the model answers are. So.
Yep. And so I did a lot of that. And I mean, sometimes even though the professors aren't willing to release them out to you, but once again, communication I think is key. Talk to them, ask them. Like if they're not willing to release their own, they'll guide you in a way. They'll tell you websites. They'll tell you about Barbary, which is a really good website to find practice exams, and they'll just lead the way for you. And I just feel like also talking to your professors and not being shy. And I know that like if you're not a social person, that might be very intimidating. But the person who wants to help you out the most is the professors, and the ones who knows their class the best are the professors. So that's who you really do need to kind of just become friends with, like stay in contact with, because those are the people who can help you the most.
Totally. So I was listening to this thing on NPR about the differences between first generation students and people who have had somebody in their family who has gone through the same course of study. And they were saying that a lot of first gen students don't go to office hours because they don't really understand what office hours means. And for some people, they just assumed that, oh, office hours, that means my professor is in his office grading papers and he's busy and I shouldn't go talk to him. And then other people realize that no, that's the time that they literally set aside to talk to students. And so I think it's so important to let people know that your professors are there to make sure that you succeed. So talking to them, using them as a resource is absolutely part of the law school experience. I mean, think about how much you're paying for law school. You better be getting your money's worth. You make those professors work, okay? So, go out there and talk to them and just say, hey, do you have some past exams that I could take a look at? Can you show me what an A paper looks like compared to like a C paper? I mean, and the worst they can say is no, or they could give you suggestions as other ways that you can get that information. Like Kenny said, they might give you resources online where you can look. You know, professors, they can't be that creative all the time, so they kind of have to get their material somewhere. And if you can kind of get into their minds and figure out, okay, what are they looking at that's helping them write these exams, you can just get that little bit of edge. So I think that's great advice. Definitely go talk to your professors. And then, is there anything that you learned in second semester that really would have helped you first semester had you known?
So I mean, second semester is where I kind of veered off with like believing in what I was doing, um, and just listening to others a lot. And that will happen because like after first semester, my grades were decent, but they weren't what I wanted. So I
Mm-hmm.
definitely wanted to make some changes. But the thing is, it's a balancing act. Like you don't want to just completely stop what was working for you, but you also don't want to be stubborn and just be like, well, I'll just keep doing the same thing, you know? So like, yeah, it's like, it's so second semester, I think something that would really help people is just like, try new things too, be open to that, but stick with what was working for you. But also like, try these new things and see if they also work for you. Cause I mean, I feel like, the more you know, the better. And then just like the more things you try, the like, eventually everything will just come together and you will be like, okay, these are the things that work for me. Because after one semester, you're still not sure, but second semester, you take the time to do that, then your grades should improve, like your studying habits should improve too. So yeah.
Awesome. So what was your job search like? Talk to us a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people are worried right now. If they get into law school this coming fall, it might be really, really tough to get a job. So tell me a little bit about, when did you start applying, what resources your school has for your job search, and what did you kind of have to do on your own?
Okay, so I love how you talk about the resources because your school, like most schools will have all these resources. We have a career services resource. And the thing I always like to say is the answer is always no unless you ask. So, you communicate with them. You go in, you ask them, hey, like, where are some of the best places to find jobs? Hey, can you tell me about some job opportunities? Hey, like, some jobs aren't, responding back. Like, what's wrong with my resume? Can you look over them for me? And once again, it's like you could be shy, but just know that, like, after a while, that will, work out for you if you actually communicate with these people who probably know the best with what you want to do. So I definitely talk to them a lot. They put me on like a lot of job search websites, and they really work my resume. But the way I found my internship this summer was pretty crazy, unconventional. Is It was my best friend's friend opened up his own little law firm, and I met him at the bar. And basically, like, you wouldn't think like, oh, networking opportunities occur at the bar, but once again, it's like just socialize, just be open to meeting new people. And that's where I eventually met this guy who has his own law firm, and didn't even ask for an interview. He didn't even ask for a resume. He was just like, yeah, like, I've talked to you before. You seem really nice. You seem very driven. So of course, come work with me. And but also, I even after I got that internship, I was still applying. I was still reaching out to people by email, and just making connections. Another thing that really worked out for me is networking events. And the school might not announce them. Like, they might email you, it might be one email, and they just kind of get lost in your other emails. But make sure you be on the lookout for those networking events where you can meet other lawyers, where you can meet other, like, students, and that will present you opportunities, and that will present to you like people that you can meet, people that can help you get to where you want to be.
And how do you set yourself apart at these networking events? I remember my first networking event in law school was like super intimidating, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. So, how do you approach a networking event, and what do you say to people?
Okay, so I mean, I feel like you just gotta be genuine. Like, you go up and you ask genuine questions, like, you want to know. You don't have to be fake about it. You don't have to be like, all right, these are the questions I have to ask these people. You go up and you ask them, it's like, what made you go into this field? What advice could you give me to a 1-year student? These are questions that you probably do want to know. It's like, these are experienced lawyers. These are people who have been through it before, and so you just go up and you introduce yourself, and you just ask them genuine questions. And people tell me all the time, I didn't believe it, but they said lawyers love to talk about themselves. So, like, getting them to talk is not really hard to do. You just gotta be able to approach them. But one thing that helped me, I feel like set me apart, because a lot of my classmates weren't doing it, was I made business cards. Made business cards, like, with my name, just JD candidate, like, 2022. And I feel like that helped me stand out, because even though they could just throw it away, if they don't, though, like, always be, it'll be in the wallet, like. And another good thing is, you give them a business card, they'll give you a business card. So now you have their email. Well, I feel like that's a lot more professional than, hey, what's your email? Let me type it in, or like, let me write it down. Just trading business cards, and especially the older lawyers, they love it. So.
I love that you said that. So we tell everyone in our mentoring program to create a business card. And even though they're, a lot of them are college students, they're like, I don't feel comfortable creating a business card. I'm like, think of it as a networking card, because lawyers are old school. Like, we still exchange business cards. And if you don't have one, you kind of look sheepish when they're like, here's my card. And you're like, oh, thanks. So yeah, I think it's great. Create a business card, and then just put on it that you're a JD candidate, or, first year student, or whatever it is. And then put a QR code on there that goes to your LinkedIn profile. That's another tip, is, now you can use QR codes to communicate all sorts of things. So if you have a blog that you write, you can, use that to link to your blog, or your own personal website with your portfolio. You can link to that. If you need some tips on what to put on your business cards, I have a bunch of great templates. So feel free to email me. I'll drop my email in the chat box, and you guys can ask me. But yeah, I think having a business card is so important, and very, very few students actually do it. So that's awesome that you have a business card. And then a good tip is, if you don't have a business card, or you just happen to forget your business cards when you go to networking events, I've definitely been guilty of this. Just ask them for their LinkedIn. Would you connect with me on LinkedIn? And you can both pull out your apps, and there's an area where you can scan your QR codes, and it's really, really fast. So at least that will be a way that you can connect with them. And usually on the link on their LinkedIn profile, there will be a contact info link, and that will give you their email address. So the good thing about lawyers is that most of us, especially if we're at firms, we have to list our email addresses and our contact information for the public to find us. So you can always go and look up that person later, just as long as you know their name. And connecting with them on LinkedIn right on the spot will at least get you their name. So, but yeah, what other tips do you have for people who are thinking about going to law school right now, Kenny? I mean, I know that these are some pretty unprecedented times, so I think people are just curious to see, what's going to happen if they decide to go to law school in the fall. I mean, have all of your classes been online, or how's that experience going?
Yeah, so everything switched to online, and basically see, I like it. I'm able to focus while I'm at home, and I like the fact that I'm in the comfort of my own home. But for a lot of people, I heard that it's just hard to stay engaged. But I mean, the thing that definitely helps motivate me is you can't think of this as like a vacation. You still got to think like, okay, where do I want to be in 3 years? I'm in law school because I want something in 3 years. So like, even though you're in the comfort of your own home and you can kind of play on your phone and cook food without your teachers maybe knowing, like you still got to stay engaged and still remember like your motivations of why you're here. And I would say definitely when you get into law school, I definitely in class I wanted to talk about this. They do this thing called, is it the Socratic method? Is that correct?
Socratic method, yeah.
Yeah, where they like cold call you, and basically you don't know when you're gonna be called on. You don't know when you're gonna be asked a question, and they're ask you a question, and you might come out with, you might not be prepared. You might come out with like some of the dumbest answers, or or you might really have a question that you want to ask in class, but you're embarrassed because you're just like, man, I don't want to be seen as like the dumb person in class. But that's something you can't shy away from. It's like you said, like the professor's getting paid so much money, you got to make them work for their money. And that was something that like I at first had problems with. There, I was like, I don't want to be seen as that kid who just asks so many questions, doesn't know what's going on. But that's how you just tie the loose ends. Like if you don't ask those questions, you won't know, and you have to wait to office hours, or you have to wait and ask somebody else, and you just really want it from your professor then and there, so you can put it in your notes. And when you hear other people answer the correct questions all the time, or they always know everything, that doesn't mean they will do great on the exams. Now they might, but just because you know all the answers in class, even though you might know what's going on in class, that doesn't translate to the testing sometimes. And I feel like some people, they get bummed out. There's like, this person knows everything, and I feel like I'm behind, or I feel like I'm not doing as much work. And it's like, that's that's not like the testing is totally different from the questions they ask you in class. In class, they'll ask you who were the parties, what were their names, what was the problem, all this stuff. But in the testing, it's completely different. So
yeah, Socratic method was like my worst nightmare. So I had this professor my first year. He was my torts professor, and he hated Texans because his first job out of law school, he didn't go to law school in Texas, but the first job that he could get was working for this mass tort litigation firm in Houston, Texas. And they were literally like airplane accident chasers. Like an airplane would go down and then all these lawyers would rush to the scene like, we can represent you. And this was before tort reform, when you can't do that anymore. But so he hated it because he was running around literally chasing airplane crashes in the Texas heat in the middle of summer. And so he hates all Texans. And so he loved cold calling on just Texans. And so I went to law school in New Hampshire, by the way. There weren't a lot of Texans out there. So it was a pretty small pool of people. So we were constantly getting called on. And I remember just hating it so bad because they put you on the spot, and maybe you read the case, but you don't remember it backwards and forwards, and they just grill you and grill you and grill you until you don't know the answer. And it's really, really scary. So then I thought, okay, when I finally graduated law school, I was like, yes, no more cold calling ever. And then, of course, the very first job I had, my senior partner at the firm, the most senior partner there. His name was on the door, everything. He was a law professor. He was an adjunct professor at American University in DC. And so he would Socratic method me to death. We would have these meetings and, he'd be like, so what did the client say? Are you sure that client said that? Well, what do you think of this? How would you answer it if they said this? I was like, oh my God. So I hear you. Socratic method is no fun. But I mean, I think it's important to take away from that, yeah, there's going to be times that you don't know the answer. That's totally okay. It's important that you take advantage of those times to really get that answer from your professors somehow. Go and a lot of times Socratic method, the tough part about it is that you're going to be answering. The professor might come back and try to lead you in a different direction, but they might do that for the entire class and you still don't really get it. And that's okay. Go up to the professor after class and just be like, listen, I know you were trying to get me to this answer, but I really didn't get it. Like, can you show me, how would you have thought through this issue? And let them explain it to you the right way, and then put that in your notes. Because otherwise, if you're just trying to take notes of like all the things that you're like following people down this rabbit hole of Socratic method, you're gonna have a jumble of notes. It's not gonna make any sense. So just focus on just trying to like capture the main idea after class and processing that a little bit. But really, really great tip. And then so tell us a little bit about, how you got interested in which practice area you're interested in and why, you've kind of chosen that area. Like, what exposure do you have?
So I really wanted to get into corporate law, mergers and acquisitions, and commercial real estate is really interesting to me. And with the commercial real estate, it was before I got into law school, real estate just seemed like, a good path to go into. Like, it didn't take that many hours of schooling and to get a certificate. And a few of my friends were very successful with it. So that's kind of what got me into because commercial real estate is more lucrative. And even though money's not everything to me, I do want to be financially stable. And, with all these student loans coming in, I want to be able to pay those off, But so yeah, so the commercial real estate was just the lucrative work. Now I really like mergers and acquisitions. I really like corporate law more than litigation, mostly because I'm not into really arguing. I don't really like to choose sides as much, and I just like the aspect of how corporate law, you're almost coming together and trying to find that middle ground. You're like both sides are looking to
clarify for
yeah.
that. So, I mean, yes and no. So actually corporate does encompass a lot of litigation as well. So there's transactional work. For those of you that don't know what transactional work means, that's like when a deal goes down and, maybe like a merger and acquisition. So all of that is going to be done outside of court. It's, you negotiating with another party and you're hammering out contracts and basically you're doing everything outside of court. Litigation is when you have a dispute and you go to court or another tribunal, an administrative body or something to try to work out that dispute. Now, there are plenty of times that corporate lawyers have to deal with litigation. Many times they will hire an outside law firm, outside counsel, to handle these types of litigation matters. But the corporate practice area encompasses all of that. It's this big umbrella. And so you'll have some lawyers who are in-house at a corporation that practice, lots of different areas of law. Some of them might be corporate lawyers. Some of them might be intellectual property lawyers. Some of them might be employment law lawyers. So I don't want you to think that just working in a corporation makes it corporate law. And I don't want you to think that corporate law is only transactional work. But it is this big umbrella that fits all that other stuff underneath it.
Okay. And I guess another good advice I'd have is, even though I don't think I want to go into litigation, definitely test it out. There's mock trial competitions. There's stuff like that where, you want to get hands-on. That's how you will truly know, what you want to do. Because, you might take contracts. And you're just like, oh, I'm really good at contracts. I want to do contracts now. Or I'm really good at property. But the classes, from what I've heard at least, they're not going to be like how it is in the workplace.
Not at
So,
all.
yep,
Not
definitely.
at all.
Yep. So the internships and definitely like getting hands on with like the real workplace environment, that's how you're really going to figure out what you want to do. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I think I have my path, but I still haven't tested out everything yet. So I'm just going to keep my options open. That's what I'm going to do.
That's great. Well, yeah, I'd like to go ahead and open it up to the Q&A. If people want to just chime in, feel free to turn on your videos or and just ask any questions to Kenny that you want to hear about what's it like to be in law school.
Hi, my name's Ashley. Kenny, it was really nice hearing about your experience and just your grind and your determination as you were applying. I have a question about your personal statement. I know the admissions officer told you to really blow it out of the park with your statement. Can you talk about what you wrote about or provide any tips when you're writing?
Yeah, definitely. So I basically gave him a short biography about like my life after undergrad. I told him all the jobs I worked, whether it was like a fast food restaurant, whether it was even something minuscule, and you kind of take out what skills you learn from them. That so like for example, like being a cashier, you gotta think on your feet. You have to use a lot of math. So like even though you're thinking, oh, that's a job that anybody can do, definitely pull out the skills that you learn from each individual job, and that will make you stand out. And also, like I said, all the flaws, all the mistakes you made. Like I said, I partied too much in school. I admitted that. I was very transparent about it. I was like, look, I was just young. I was immature. I didn't know what I really wanted. I wasn't motivated. And but now it's different now because this is something I really, really want. And it's just kind of like it's all a balance. It's telling him the good and the bad, but also I think the most important thing is your life experiences. Like don't shy away from that. Pull out everything you learned because you learned so much in your life, and just pull that out, put in your personal statement, and that will really make you stand out. Even if you think, oh, I've only worked at Walmart, I've only worked at these few places, I have no legal experiences. Like the social skills you learn, like the people you meet, like that all can come in and make a great personal statement.
And I think a lot of people are worried about like those stories coming off cliche, like, oh, well, everybody's had these kinds of jobs. Like, how can I make that special? But like, think about it. There are really powerful stories that you have read where like there's nothing unique about it. It's just the way that that person tells that story that makes it really unique. And so you can do that in your personal statement. It's okay. You don't have to be the only person ever to have that story. I hear a lot of students read all these examples of personal statements online that are like, I opened up an orphanage in Uganda and helped orphans, it doesn't have to be that. You can take your story, your genuine story, and write it in a compelling way to say, I'm prepared to become a lawyer. Like, there is nothing about being a lawyer that means you have to be the most unique anything. You have to just be ready to go through law school. And you have to just show that the things that you've done in your life up until now have prepared you to do that. So I love your advice, Kenny, about how to write your personal statement and being genuine and authentic in your personal statement, because I think that's exactly the key. People always ask, what's the secret between like a good personal statement and a great personal statement? And I think how honest you are, how you present that is part of that. But then also, how do you tie that into why you're now prepared to do the study of law? It's not just, I'm just going to tell them about my worst story in my life, but also, how have you turned that around? What skills have you earned? Exactly as Kenny said, just pull out the skills that are relevant to, what makes a good lawyer. I mean, as a cashier, you're accounting, you're handling other people's money. You're going to have to do that as a lawyer. You're going to be taking clients' money, a lot more money, but, still same type of thing, and you have to be responsible with that money. You have to, interact with customers every day if you're doing retail or if you're a waitress. you need those people skills when you talk to clients as an attorney. I mean, how else do you think you'll get business? So use everything that you've done in your life, and think about, what skills have I developed that will make me good at this? And it doesn't have to make you the best at it, but it's something that you can take and develop and hone over your career. So I think that's really important. But great question, Ashley.
Thank you for your answer.
What other questions do we have? Come on, y'all, don't be shy, speak up.
Hi, so my name is Cara. I'm actually in class with Kenny. He's my classmate, and he dropped this link in the group me today, and I felt it was really important to be here and support him. And so I don't have so much of a question, but just a comment about Kenny. He and several other students in class went through that PBAP program, and even, I mean, he's been very inspirational, because when you see what he and the other PBAP students went through, it's a reminder for those of us who didn't, that they are working really hard, but that group of students was already working hard before we even knew. And so having people around like Kenny has been really helpful as far as my own motivation, going through the same things that he's talking about. And lastly, Kenny, he has been very honest about his progress. A lot of the stuff he's talked about today, I didn't even know. And I think that's attributed to his personality, but very clearly his background. He is the poster child for, you cannot do what Kenny does. If he doesn't brief, don't you dare try to do it. You have to do what works for you. And he's the poster child of that. He, it is cliche, but he really is the face of, don't be afraid to be yourself and ask those questions. So I'm just happy to be here and hear more about my own classmate. And I hope that it was really helpful to everybody else that was logged on.
Thank you, Cara.
Cara, thank you so much for joining the call. It's so great that you're here to support your classmate. That's super important. By the way, when you're in law school, build a tribe. Build a tribe of awesome people that are going to support you in everything that you do, because that tribe will be with you for the rest of your life. I mean, I built my tribe in law school, and I still talk to them all the time, and now they're all having kids and getting married and doing a gazillion things and, becoming GCs of corporations. But it's great to have your tribe. So it's really important, find good people. They don't have to be the smartest people, the best people. I mean, there were people in my class that were crazy smart, but they were also very, very competitive, and, they rubbed people the wrong way. They, just tried to get ahead in the wrong ways and didn't serve them well later on in life. So, just bond with people and find your tribe. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for joining, Cara.
Hi, I'm Rachel, and thank you, Kenny, for sharing your story. It was very encouraging, and it just gives me hope for sure. I have two questions. What did you do differently in the first semester than you did in the second semester?
Okay, so in the first semester, I did a lot of case briefing. I did a lot of reading, because just going through school in general, ever since like elementary school, it's like, if these are your reading assignments, these are your reading assignments. This is what you have to do. The thing is about law school is you don't have as much time to read and do those practice multiples to prepare for the test, and like eat, sleep, and all that. You got to stay healthy. So first semester I was really on point. It's like, okay, I got to read this to this every single day. I got to do this, I got to do that. But second semester was when I balanced that out. I was like, okay, once again, I can't be stubborn. I can't just be like, I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to do only multiple choice questions. But it's like, okay, maybe there's these things called canned briefs where you get them online. It's a summary of the brief. So like an actual brief in the textbook might be 10 to 15 pages. But a canned brief will just be maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs just summarizing the case. And the main thing that I figured out was the reason you case brief is you want to pull up the rules, you want to pull out the law, like what law did they apply in the case. And that's what I did differently second semester, where there were some case briefs where I was like, look, I understand this law, but I'm just gonna do a can brief just to make sure that it's on point with what I'm thinking. While first semester, I was like, I don't care, I gotta read all of this. And it kind of took me away from doing those practice multiples, doing the practice essays, having time to talk to my teachers. So I think like second semester, I was just really able to plan my time, plan my day a lot better, and knowing what I need. And that's just what first semester is. First semester is a learning experience. That's why many people say that first semester might be some of your worst grades, even though the classes get harder. Um, it's just that your first semester, you've never been doing anything like this before. And as long as you learn along the way, and once again, it's balancing act, so you can't be stubborn, but you can't just completely not believe in what you need to do. So you just balance it out and you figure it out. And then second semester, like everything just goes smoother because you know what you need to do for yourself.
That makes sense. Thank you. And then the second question is, I don't know if you want to share it, but your LSAT score, because I know your GPA was a 2.4, you said?
2.4, yeah.
So did the LSAT score, was that good compared to the GPA, or vice versa, whatever?
Okay, so the first time I took the LSAT, the 2 years before where I got rejected, I got 145. And the second time I raised it to 153, which I feel like was a decent, jump. And yeah, so basically, once again, I was transparent with him. I told him, I was like, look, I don't know 153 is a good score. Like, I know some of the other schools in the area, they might not even look at you if you have, we have Duke here, we have Wake Forest here. So, like, they might not even look at your application if your LSAT score is not like a 160.
Right.
But once again, you be transparent with them. You ask them, hey, look, like, just be honest. Like, is this good enough? And like I said, it's like you're making yourself known. You're making yourself like, so even if the scores aren't there, like if they call you and they talk to you, they have a conversation with you, they get to know you, they might ignore those things. But once again, answer is always no unless you ask. So always don't be afraid to ask.
Oh, makes sense. And I have one more question. I know I said two.
Yep, go ahead.
Why did you choose the school that you were at now? Why did you choose that school?
Okay, so the tuition rate is really low. It's for tuition, it was only, I think, $9,500 a semester. So it was just cheaper, but also going through that PBAP program, just so many supportive people, and that's the thing that Angie was talking about. It's like you want to build a tribe, but you want to build a tribe of good people. So like I remember the thing that stood out to me most at PBAP is they told us, they were like, we're not only looking at your grades, we're looking at how you treat people. We're looking at how you talk to the janitors. We're looking at how you talk to the teachers, how you talk to your fellow classmates. And I just got that, like, I just love that atmosphere. And so like when I started law school, I was that kid who I say hi to everyone. Now I might not remember your name. It might take me a while to even, remember who you are, but I say hi to everyone. I, if anybody ever needs help, like I'm not secretive about it. I like, if they're just like, what supplements do you use? I'm not like, well, I got to keep this for myself, so I'm not going to tell you. And it's just like, and I met a lot of other people who are just like that. One of my mentors, he was probably the reason I'm way more successful second semester, is every time I needed help, he would be like, here, we can FaceTime and I'll help you with your research paper, or I'll help you with your exam preparation. And I just love that support. And I feel that's important when you're, looking for a school to apply to also.
That makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, I have a question. I wanted to know, since you were out of school for 2 years, how did you get your recommendation letters, and who did you go to?
Okay, so the 2 years before, when I first applied, I had already had recommendation letters from my undergrad professors, and I feel like there was like after a few, like I think it might be like 8 to 10 years, you can't use them anymore. But fortunately, I could. So I asked one of my criminal justice professors, and he was a lawyer. And I had asked my other criminal justice professor, who was a police officer. So yeah, they wrote them up for me, and I was able to use them the second go around. But I mean, I would say like, reach out to your undergrad professors. Like if you let them know, that's the thing. It's like, I don't think I was that so engaged in those classes where they like remember who I was. But I just told them my mission. I just told them, hey, this is what I want to do in my life. And it would mean a lot if you could just write me a recommendation letter. And most of the time, if they have time, they will say yes. So I would just say like, reach out to your professors. And I mean, definitely there's one that's like, you're the favorite of the class, and definitely ask them.
Last question. So what does a typical day look like now since COVID has taken over? Like, how does class go for you now?
So once again, everything's online, but the professors like they've been a lot more helpful. They'll post PowerPoints, so whatever you missed in class, you can go back and look at them online. And like everything, even though it's hard to engage the professors, instead of maybe just asking one or two people in the whole entire class, like to answer the questions, they'll go around to everyone, and just make sure everyone's engaged in class. But I think the thing that really helped us out the most was one of our professors would just have breakout sessions where you would discuss things in like little mini groups, and that definitely, and then you come back and then we see if everyone's on the same page. So that was something we weren't really doing in class, but now that it's online, they've definitely made some changes to just make it more engaging and just more helpful for us.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hey, before I forget, where do you find your canned briefs?
So I use Quimby, but you gotta pay like I think $35 a month. But Google, you just go to Google and you write your case, and then you'll find like I think there's casebriefs.com that's free. And now if you're in law school, you can use LexisNexis or LexisNexis and Westlaw to get case briefs also. But if you're not in law school, then those will probably cost you money. So, but casebriefs.com is where I would go for like free case briefs.
And actually, if you guys do if you do any sort of pre-law prep program like Barbary Law Preview or something like that, most of the time you'll get a bunch of study aids for free. So like E&Es and the crunch time books and stuff like that. But I can post some links to some of these study aids so you can kind of just see what they are. So, what other questions? Anybody? Kenny, can you talk a little bit more about your mentor? I thought that was really interesting. Who's your mentor?
So his name's Luke. He's a 2L, so he's a rising 3L. And our school actually has like this little mentorship mentee program where you sign up and they pair you up. But the funny thing is we have a little flag football team, and I was playing flag football with this guy, and he was really cool. He was really friendly. Then lo and behold, he becomes my mentor. And yeah, like, so he basically, I don't know how other mentors are, but from the get-go, he asked me, he was like, what are you struggling with? Like, and I guess I'm lucky, but the same things I struggled with, he was struggling with. He struggled with 1L year too. So he was able to just kind of like tell me what he did, to help him along. And he also like, also told me different opportunities, like the networking events and stuff like that. He went 1L year. So even though I might have lost him in my emails, he was the one who was able to be, hey, there's a networking event coming up next month. I went last year. It's really useful. And oh yeah, there's these supplements I use to get my outlines and stuff like that. So once again, like I have to thank him probably more than anyone, maybe some of my teachers, that like he really was able to lead the way for me. But the thing is, you just gotta be genuine to people. You gotta be genuine. You gotta talk to them, and you'll find most likely than not, they will try to help you if you are genuine and you say hi to them every day and just you talk to them without wanting anything in return. Like whenever you do need something, they will most likely help you.
I just dropped the E&E link in the chat so that you can see what that looks like. Oh, we have 2 questions from the audience. So we have a person that's Peruvian and she's lived in New York for a while, but she's based in Europe. So she has a question for you about what do you think about digital skills and learning languages for lawyers? Is that important, and how do you do that?
So learning new languages, I think it's important. It's not necessary if you're going to practice law in the U.S., but it's definitely a big leg up. Like, for example, you want to go to immigration law. Like, if you just know Spanish, if you learn Spanish, like that's just a big advantage you can have. And we even have a class in our law school called Spanish for Lawyers. Says that just shows that like how important like languages can be. But definitely, like, if you know another language, use that to your advantage to put it on your application. That's something that will definitely make you stand out. I know Thai, so like I know Thai is not as widely used here, in America, but I definitely put that as one of my strengths because that's something that not a lot of people have.
Way to represent Thai.
You know.
So my family's from Thailand. So when I first met Kenny on LinkedIn, I was like, "Oh, are you Thai? Because your last name totally looks Thai like mine."
Last name, yep.
So, what other questions did you have? Carol, did you have any more? Did those answer your question? Did he answer your question? Okay. Well, I think so. We're at 1 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and end it here. But if you guys have other questions, feel free to reach out. Kenny's on LinkedIn. You can connect with him on there. But yeah, if you have any other questions for him, feel free to send a follow-up message or something to him. Thank you so much, Kenny, for joining us today. I loved hearing your story. And yeah, please let me know how you do in law school and keep me posted.
Definitely. Thank you so much.